here. And now I'd like to introduce to you our moderator of today's panel, Kristen Reid of MIXTEC Group. Kristen serves on the board of directors of the FPFC as well as the United Fresh Produce Association. She has been recognized by the produce business as a under 40 recipient and is a graduate of the United Fresh Produce Leadership Program. In 2020, she was awarded the Frida Rappaport Kaplan Women's Catalyst Award by the Produce Marketing Association. Kristen?
Thanks, Sean. And thank you all for joining us. I am really excited to be moderating this panel. The four women that I'm going to be speaking with today are incredible, and I've really enjoyed hearing their stories, getting to know them. You know, the concept today is about the power of passion, persistence, and perseverance, and I think you're going to see those characteristics in all four of our panelists today. I've got one quick housekeeping item, and then I'm going to ask my panelists to introduce themselves. We do want this to be as interactive as we can on a webinar, so we have people moderating the chat function. If you've got questions at any point throughout our conversation today, please put it in the chat. And then at the very end of the session, we will open that up to cover as many of your questions as we can. If there's anything we don't get to, we'll follow back up with you. So we want to hear from you as well. And with that, I am very excited to ask my panelists to introduce themselves. I'm going to go in alphabetical order by last name, which shockingly is toward the end of the alphabet. So we're going to start with Kyla Oberman.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Kyla Oberman. I'm the Director of Marketing for California Giant Berry Farms, and I've been in the produce industry for 17 years.
Thank you, Kyla. Amber.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Amber Rossi. I'm a produce global buyer for Whole Foods Markets, and I've been in the produce industry about 8 years now. So super excited to be here with all of you, and thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Amber. Sheryl.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sheryl Salazar, and I am the Director of Fresh for Albertsons and Bonds, and I've been in the business for 28 years.
Thanks, Sheryl. And last but not least, Shonna.
Hi, I'm Shonna Williams. I'm the Senior Director here at Cardenas Markets, and I've been in the business for 30 years.
Perfect. Well, and thank you all for being here. You know, I think the last year has had ups and downs for everybody, right? But some of my favorite conversations are around the positive things, the silver linings, the things we've really learned about ourselves. So I'd love to hear kind of the lessons that you've taken away from the last year and what you're doing to implement some of those. And Shonna, I'm actually going to have you start.
Okay, great. Well, last year for sure was very challenging for all of us. I actually was at Superior Grocers last year. And so during the whole COVID thing, like I was in charge of the produce warehouse and the shipping and the receiving. So we had a lot of challenges in making sure we got in the product for the COVID customers and just getting that ramp up. So for me, last year was a bit challenging for that aspect, but we pulled through. We generated huge sales, great profit dollars, like the most that we ever had for that company. And I actually moved over to Cardenas Markets during this pandemic, which is not something that everyone would really want to do during a pandemic, but I did it, and I'm very glad that I was able to do that and be successful in moving over.
Well, and you and I had kind of talked about one of the things that motivated that change was just the commute time and kind of the lesson you learned around kind of the balance of work and family life.
Yeah. So before I was driving 60 miles to work, and that was to LA. So you're looking at a commute of 1 to 2 hours each way. And especially being a mother, you know, that's a lot of time to be away, especially working 10 to 12-hour days. So for me, it was a huge benefit to come work here, where I'm able to only drive 40 minutes one way and actually work one day from home. So that was a huge plus for me and just a benefit, even as a mother, just having that extra day on Friday at home before the weekend. Even though we work weekend 24/7, it was just a benefit for me just to be able to be that extra day at home, helping the kids, especially during the online schooling. That's just been I'm not a teacher, I'll tell you that. So it's been a very big challenge to actually teach my children and work at the same time. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, and Amber, because Shonna changed companies, but you actually changed roles within your company during the pandemic as well. So, what have you kind of taken away from the last year, and what lessons have really come to mind for you?
Yeah, so I think, with having changed roles and having new responsibilities, it was difficult. I got all new commodities assigned, and so it was a challenging time to have this new role and working with brand new suppliers and new commodities. And, you couldn't have that face-to-face interaction with your suppliers and really get to know them once COVID hit. So it was a challenge in that regard. But I think just working remotely and, some of the key lessons that I learned about myself in general, I had a very hard time at the very beginning of COVID working 100% from home. I had a hard time separating work from home life. For me, that was just a huge adjustment. I think mostly because it was just so convenient to have your computer at home all the time. It was hard to separate the two and hard to turn it off. Plus, work was super busy, and my husband and I, we don't have kids yet, and no pets or anything. So in terms of responsibilities, it was pretty small as compared to most people. And so I think I just kind of got lost in, the whole country is shut down. You can't go anywhere. I can't do anything. And so I used work as a distraction. And then after a while, I kind of realized that my work and home life balance were really non-existent. I had totally tipped the scales, and I really needed to be more cognizant of that, or I was just going to burn myself out. And so I think what I've done to kind of break that cycle is just take breaks. I've said I'm not going to eat at my desk, even though ironically my desk right now from home is my kitchen table. So just taking breaks and, making little changes like that throughout the day have really helped for me. I also think too, another key lesson I've learned through all of this is just to be more compassionate towards people. And not that I wasn't doing that before, but I think I just have a more heightened awareness around that fact. We're all doing so much, taking on a lot of extra stuff, work-wise or otherwise. And so I think I've just tried to have that mindset, give people a break and understand that we're all going through so much, and to just kind of come out of that with more of a kinder approach. So I think those are, for me, some lessons that I've really learned over the past year.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to come to you, Kyla, next, because that connection with people piece is a part of the conversation I had with you in terms of kind of what you learned about yourself, but also how you need to interact with others over this last year.
Yeah, I too changed jobs during this time of year last year, actually, and came into not only a new company, but a new leadership role, and communication was key on that. I maintained my office status because the nanny owns the house as her office with the children. And it was a way for me to keep focus, but more focus on communication, because a majority of my coworkers did go remote. And I found that you take that water cooler conversation for granted. Or if I get up to walk down the hallway, I might see somebody and say, oh, and bring up a work topic. You're lost on that opportunity that you don't even think about in a normal setting. And so that challenge of really upping that communication, but also that grace comment of, personal check-ins started first and foremost more than ever, I found. And I've heard lots of other people, especially on the sales side, talk about that we're doing this face-to-face dialogue more than ever. Normally you'd be on the phone with a customer, and now you're having FaceTime with the customer virtually, and you're having more personal conversations and connections, and it's valuable. And I feel like we're all creating more connected relationships as a result of that increased communication and conversations.
Yeah. Well, and Sheryl is going to round us out because she also has a new role in her company. There's a theme here for women definitely pushing through over the last year and continuing to drive their careers forward. So Sheryl, what about you, kind of in your new role and lessons you've taken away from the last year?
Yeah, and just like many of you on the panel, I mean, I was very comfortable in my last position. I ran produce, much like Shonna, for Albertsons and Vons, and was very comfortable. And lo and behold, had an opportunity to run Olive Fresh, which encompasses meat and bakery and deli and everything else, which I needed to learn. So getting promoted right before that pandemic, I had a plan, and I was focused on my plan on what I was going to do and how I was going to learn the other departments and be able to support the sales managers like I needed to drive sales. And that all changed really quickly. We all had to switch gears. So I'm still learning my new role, and that's definitely been a little bit of a challenge, but it's been a great transition because I work closely with produce still, which is, near and dear to my heart. But what I will tell you I did learn is, much like Shonna, I can't teach 3rd and 5th grade. I had to make a big adjustment in regards to our office closed. It closed for a good amount of time in the beginning of the pandemic. We had the option to go in 1 or 2 days a week, but being at home, and I think Amber mentioned it, I mean, at home with your computer being there, you tend to work more. It was a little different for me because I, was trying to help my kids with school. So I would take breaks. I'd find myself, replying to emails and doing things at 11 o'clock at night, because that's when I could come back to it after, we were kind of done with our evening and our night. I was sharing with a few of the panelists on the group that in my daughter's travel ball really never stopped through the pandemic, which was a little odd. So we were still traveling out of state, playing softball and doing things like that. So we were busy in the evening and doing all that. So there was a lot around that, and I was trying to figure out how to balance, and the emails piling up, and finally I had to really put time management into place and really figure out, how do I manage my day, how do I manage my time, prioritizing, which you kind of always do, especially in the roles we have, but it became more important for me to do that. I would say the one positive thing that came out of COVID is just the time spent with my family this last year. Taking time with the kids, with everything, because I had a lot of help. When you have kids and you're a working mom, you surround yourself, sometimes it takes a village. So we have friends, and my husband works, right? So we have friends and a little bit of family that helps us. And that kind of went away too during COVID, because everyone was fearful about, getting sick and not, contaminating anybody else. So, there was a lot there, but I would say the one positive thing that came out of this was the family time and how important that was, spending time with your kids.
And I think that's a common theme, right? And listening to all of you, it is about learning to kind of prioritize our time and set boundaries so that we can balance what we have going on at home and work. And then it's also the connection with people. And I think one of the things that everybody over the last year that I've talked to has talked about is some of the ways in which their company has been really supportive of not only themselves, but employees during this time. And I don't mean to go to Shonna first. This will be the last time I go to you first, Shonna, but I loved the conversation that you and I had about Cardenas and how they've been supportive of you. Would you mind kind of sharing?
Yeah, so when I came over here, this company has been through a lot of challenges and changes lately with new directors. In the past 4 years, there's been 4 different directors that has overseen produce. So you can kind of understand like how the team is feeling here, just with all this new management, a new sense of style that comes in every time, different SOPs, different things that we work through as being in charge. So for me, I was coming over here and with a new team, people I've never worked with. because sometimes when you go to a new job, you tend to have already worked with someone from another job because that's how, tight our industry is. So for me coming here, it's just been very welcoming. It seems like they're looking for new growth, new opportunities, and also trusting their employees and the people that they hire, that they put in the place or the positions, and they're listening to them, they're trusting them, they're taking the direction from them. Because as you know, when you're put in a position over a department, you're supposed to be the most professional person in that department with all the knowledge. And so I'm really appreciating working with this team and to see how we can grow it together. I've really enjoyed coming here so far, and just having that trust and knowing that, hey, I'm going to trust you. Let's see what you can do. Because there's times in this industry where you're not going to make a right call, but you can't be right on everything. And if you don't try, you'll never know. So I'm real big. Let's try it. Let's see what we can do. Let's see how we can grow this, and let's go with it. So they've been very supportive.
Yeah, and I love that conversation around trust, right? In an environment where not all of your employees may be in the same location at the same time, I think that's critical in terms of having everybody be effective. Kyla, you also had some things that California Giant really had done that you felt were great for yourself and the employees. Would you share?
Sure. Yeah, Cal Giant's a family company. It's family owned and run, and you feel that every day. The company is almost 40 years old, and I don't think anything's changed in that past 40 years when it comes to, everybody's your brother, your sister, your cousin type of feeling. It's very much a family feeling when you come to work, because it's how's the kids? What'd you do this weekend? It's not about, hey, did you see that email? Make sure you respond. That's not the first thing that comes to mind when people enter this building for their work day. And so that's really cherished. And I witnessed that being applied to the pandemic. Is everybody okay? Do you need to be home to take care of the kids, or do a Zoom kindergarten class in my case? Or, now that we're entering back to school, it's, do what you need to do to get your kids to school and safely. All of that has become top priority, and it's very evident by all staff here. The company normally has done, barbecues or just in-person team meetings to touch in with all staff that's led by our president. And with the pandemic, since we couldn't do that, we started doing virtual town halls. And so we've adopted Teams as our inter-office communications, and now we do virtual town halls. And we did a cocktail recipe where Joe showed everybody, watch us all through making a cocktail in his home kitchen while we all followed along. Or we've done fun virtual games where you spin the wheel and somebody gets to pick and answer a question. So they've just done a good job of not only reinforcing that camaraderie, underscoring just the family values and the mantra of do what you need to do. And going back to the earlier points of trust, we're all trusted. You're a staff member here because you're a valuable asset and trusted to do what you need to do. If it's answering emails at 10 o'clock because you took a couple of hours to do something that was pertinent to the family, that's fine. Just do what you need to do. And everybody, I specifically, really value that and find importance and praise the company for reinforcing those values across the board. So it's been really good. But bottom line to me, it all comes down to communication. You can't over communicate, period. And I think this past year has certainly proven that.
Yes, without a doubt. Communication internally, communication externally, it's changed dramatically. Well, and you talk about, the ways in which your company has connected virtually in terms of maintaining culture and that communication. And Sheryl, you've got some great examples at Albertsons of what your company's done utilizing some virtual platforms.
Yes, no, just like Kyla, we utilize what's called Teams. And again, we had to think about, from a communication standpoint, how do we do things differently? In our business, we love doing show and tells, right? About new programs that are coming and things like that. So we have, holiday meetings, big spring manager meetings where everyone comes from all over, and you show them the new programs, and our vendor community goes out there and supports it in those stores. So we utilize Teams, and actually we have a gentleman who does videos in our office, and we figured, we have to continue to communicate with our store teams. So we went out and our sales manager filmed videos, whether it was, we just did Mother's Day, and it was called Mother's Day Live for Floral, where our team went out and filmed videos about, the new items coming, how to execute, what to focus around. And then we show it live to all of our store directors, kind of like what we're doing today. And then, either myself or some of our leadership team or the sales managers kind of help talk through that. We also do town halls. So Kyla mentioned that for the 300 associates that are in our backstage building that we're used to being there every day. We try to continue with celebrating anniversaries and reward and recognition and associate of the month, just to, keep the team feeling good. We do the same thing with receipt drawings. We also have one still for our vendor community. If they shop in our stores and they put a receipt downstairs in our office or send it in, through the back door, however they do it today, we're still pulling those and they get a gift card for whatever they spent to go back and spend that in our store. And we do the same thing for our associates. So we've been trying to maintain that type of communication, and we've had a ton of positive feedback. Because if you think about, we have stores that go all the way down from El Centro all the way up to Morro Bay. And the time when you have these manager meetings for everyone to come down, so the time away from your family if you have to spend the night, the drive time, paying mileage, so the expenses that are put behind that, and then to be able to sit in your store and have everyone hear the same message, right? Because when you do these, across Southern California, sometimes you have to do them in different pockets and different people are doing them. So it was one piece of communication. Everyone heard the same message. Just again, the time saving, the expense savings. So, this whole technology piece, we're going to continue to do what we're doing, especially with holiday shows and, messages out to our store team. It's actually been fantastic, and we've gotten a ton of positive feedback. It's been great.
Yeah. Well, and do you also want to give a plug for the Women in Leadership that you were able to restart in this virtual environment?
Yeah, refresh my memory on that.
You talked about, you have this Women in Leadership program at Albertsons that had kind of been put on hiatus, but yes. With Teams, you started it up again.
I'm sorry. Yep, you're absolutely. I thought you meant something different. But yes, no, we were able to start back up our Women in Leadership program, which we actually started right before COVID hit. And again, our women that were in this program would come to our Fullerton office, and they were from all over. So it was the same type of thing. But it's been really supportive, to Kristen's point, in that aspect, because if you look at the statistics in regards to what COVID's done, it's really truly been the hardest for women, right? If you think about women working, you think about how hard the industries that have been hit, whether it's entertainment, whether it's, the hotel industry, food service industry. If you think about the percentage of women versus men in those industries, it's been hit really hard. So it's been a big support group for our female leaders out there, and just, talking through it. We've done like diversity and inclusion training. We've done all kinds of good stuff to just be supportive, and not just to women, to men as well. We had, diversity and inclusion sessions as well, but it's been great. And with Kristen's point, we're going to continue to do this, to be able to get more people involved in what we're doing in Women in Leadership. So.
Well, I wanted to give it a plug because I think it's a really cool program that you all have. And also, to Sheryl's point, I think so much of what we've already talked about is not just about women in the industry, right? It is about men and women in the industry. If you trust your employees and you're communicating with them and you're having those shared messages, that's just good for everybody in the company. I want to shift gears a little bit and focus on looking toward the future. We have learned some lessons over the last year. There are going to be changes in this industry, even when things are wide open again. So I'd love to hear your perspective on what lessons we've learned that you hope will continue, either as the industry or within your company or just you yourself. And Amber, I'll start with you. Vision for the future.
vision for the future. So I think one way that I feel the industry could best support us, and Sheryl kind of touched on it already, but for me personally, I would hope that we would take full advantage of all that, technology has to offer for us, and just continue to find ways to stay connected and informed virtually, and just to keep our networking doors open too, right? Because that's super important, and a piece that we could kind of lose if we're all, remote. And so I think there's a lot to be said for reaching those broader audiences and just recording presentations, even like this one, just tapping into, our virtual avenues, and maybe taping conferences if that's something we could do, or, just making ways for people who couldn't attend in person to still be interactive and involved. And so I think just having that other outlet to learn and grow and, from one another, and just participate as well. So regardless of that, regardless of what we do post-COVID and working remote, I still think we've all seen the benefits that virtual trainings and opportunities can provide. And so for me, I would just say that I personally would like to see that continue.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the utilization of this technology internally, like we hear about at Albertsons, and externally, like this webinar, is phenomenal. Shonna, what about you? What's your next year look like? You're 2 months into your role at Cardenas, and what are you hoping to continue? What's your focus?
I want to touch base on the question you just asked, Amber, because for me, the big mentality, especially in the produce industry for the past years, is you're not working unless you're at your desk in that office, right? It's been like the mentality everywhere, like, oh, she's not working because she's not at the office for 10 hours, right? But as you know, we're on call all the time, answering trucks, rejections, stores, hold downs, everything. So for me, like, we're on all the time. And like Sheryl said, and Amber said it too, when you're at home, you provide more time, you give more to the company than you did if you actually were in the office, because you're not having the drive time or us beautifying ourselves, right? Because as you know, us ladies, since we've been at home, we just have to do from shoulders up. So, we for those Zoom meetings, but I do think that mentality of you're not working as much unless you're at the building has gone away. And I think that this COVID year showed that, especially for companies, to see that you do give a better work-life balance, letting your employees work from home. And if you don't trust your employees, like I'll say this to everyone, if you don't trust your employees to do the job that you hired them to do, then they shouldn't be your employees anymore. That's just how I look at it. And I think that you need to have trust within them. That's my biggest thing. So for me, I'll go back to your question. For me, I'm real excited about my next 2 years here, because whenever I go into a company, I just look at things and say, what can I fix first? And I don't try to fix everything. So I try to pick a category and I move with it. So for me, it's like almost, especially when you're working for a Hispanic grocery retailer, like the one thing I love about working for a Hispanic retailer, and I've worked for also Safeway, Stater Brothers, I did the Hagen rollout. The Hispanic is, the one connection I love about the Hispanic markets is they are so family oriented, to where there's more parties, there's more gatherings, there's an event for everything, and it brings everyone together. So I just love the whole family aspect that the Hispanic grocery retailers bring. So for me, there's tons of growth here. There's ways that I'm going to go through each category, see how we can get the best sales. How can I get the best quality? How can we push these sales even higher? So like for me, my next 2 years is just going through and seeing what else can we do? What's next? How can we get this to grow? How can I partner with an excellent vendor with great quality and push the great quality? Just because Hispanic retailers are used to, pricing and one-day sales and weekend sales doesn't mean it has to be junk. So like for me, that's what I did at Superior, and that's what I plan to do here too. Like just take up the quality, look at good value and good pricing, and give that to the customer. And that's my goal.
Perfect. I love that. See, I told you, everybody, passion. Well, then, Sheryl, I'll let you take both questions. So what do you have a call for the industry? Like Amber wanting, lots of educational opportunities and record webinars, and Shonna's call to continue to be flexible and adaptable in terms of, who's at a desk and when, and as much as you can. What are your thoughts around what you'd like to see the industry do moving forward?
Yeah, no, it's funny that Shonna made that last comment because, that was a little bit of a struggle for us, and at least for Albertsons and Bonds, with what you referenced about if you don't see them working, then, they're not working, and what are they doing? So that was a big learning curve for a lot of our leadership team, and we had lots of conversations around it. So you hit it right on the head, and I think that in my conversation with our leadership team is that how are we going to continue to support this, right? Although schools have opened up, and our office, is to be honest, is not opening anytime soon as of yet. But when things do, how do we continue to support our associates that still have childcare issues or need to continue to work from home? And our call out is that we continue to support those associates that need to do that, and trust our associates and be able to provide that for them, just to be, continue to be an employer of choice or a great place to work, right? Because you get more out of your associates when you have that type of environment. So that is one. Our vision is that we've learned that convenience, people feeling comfortable and safe when they shop, has been a big thing this last year. So we have a little bit of a different strategy in the e-commerce world. So we're continuing to be focused on that, and then convenience for us. We have things happening around meal solutions and making it easy for the customer, because again, as things start opening up, those moms, and not that they're not busy, my hat's off to even moms that stay at home, because that's what's been really hard too, right? Just managing all that. But how do we make it easy for our shoppers, and looking at those sales trends, and what is it different that we can do to continue to drive our business, right? And with all due respect, set us apart from our competition, to everybody, right? I mean, I think we're all looking to do that. What's that next best thing, right? So we're looking from our vendor partners to continue to, share all the innovation and put what's out there to drive the business in general, and to try new things, right? So for us, that'll be our focus.
Perfect. And I love bringing that shopper mentality into the conversation as well. Well, and Kyla, I know you're passionate about things that the industry can be doing. Love to get your perspective.
Well, I think we all really like your question about the future applications and what the industry can do. And something that resonates with me is, by going virtual across the board, especially last summer at 110%, we've been able to include so many more people in our industry in these types of conversations. Those not lower level staff, but entry level or across the board, who might not have been able to have been afforded the opportunity to travel, or you're only allowed X number of tickets to be in person for an event, has gone out the window, and now everyone is welcome, or there's more opportunities to include the masses, if you will. And so what I really appreciate is being able to bring in more team members into these greater conversations, whether it's supplier meetings, because you're not traveling to X city where that retailer headquarters is, you're all sitting in the conference room. And so you're able to bring more parties to the table, even if it's just to listen and hear the conversation. That direct from the mouth information relay is so much more valuable. And so I see everybody really rising by having that information going direct to them rather than third person or with meeting notes. In my past, you often get those meeting notes trickled down to you as an FYI. Well, now we've been able to have the opportunity to hear it directly ourselves. So I appreciate that and hope that there's more opportunities. Not to say that networking doesn't have its value. I do wish we were all at a luncheon so that we could mingle and continue on chatting with everybody listening in as well. I certainly miss that. But those valuable conversations and meetings that's direct to the point to bring in other people has really, I think, have been valuable for a lot of key players in our company, but also in the industry as well.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think my goal for the industry is that we continue to have some kind of hybrid, both for companies in terms of employee work-life balance and some remote and some in the office, but also for events, that there will be in-person events, but there will also be hybrid opportunities where, people who don't get out of the office, and I'm a big proponent of people who aren't in sales and marketing need to be able to get out of the office, right? Your finance team and your HR team still need a network of people. And so how do we help them get involved? And I think the virtual piece has been really good for that. I've got 2 more questions before we'll open it back up to the audience. I know we've got a few questions in the chat. One of my questions is really around how you're working with your teams, because for all of you, you're in either new roles within your company, which means you have new people that are reporting into you, or you're at a totally new company. Each of your team members has their own personal situation that they're dealing with. It's totally different depending on the individual. So what are you doing to really work with your teams, make sure you're working effectively, and stay in touch with them? And Kyla, I'm actually going to have you start.
Yeah. It goes back to communication. Like I said, there's things that you take for granted, even for my team that might just be sitting on the desk over from me or one wall over. You'd get up and say, hey, blah, blah. Now you're emailing and you're copying more people than you might normally have because you don't have that funneling of inner office communication. So we've implemented weekly check-ins where it's, we schedule 30 minutes, and sometimes I've found our chats being up to 2 hours, but it's, especially these days in this past year, it's an opportunity to just check in. How are you? Are you doing okay? Am I overwhelming you with X project? Or, what, it's almost like a temperature check, if you will, to make sure that everybody's good, literally. And give them that chance to ask questions, because I don't have them here. They don't have my door to literally walk through and just interrupt me for a quick second and I have a question. You can't as easily do that. And so, we can text message, or we have Teams and those chats, but sometimes you got red lights across your whole dashboard on your computer where you might not see something in order to answer that as quickly as someone might need. So really just, it's that challenge of being available, especially as someone who leads a team. It's been a learning curve to keep that top of mind and really make sure that I am of value to my team and servicing them the way that they need to be serviced, if you will, in order for them to do their best job and set them up for success. So I think it's been good. It's been a really good education for me and reminder that I hope we'll be able to continue. The goal, I think we all agree, is to go back to a little bit of a normal. But I do see that remote working happen. Maybe it's halftime, or, we all like to have the opportunities to save a commute a day or two, like Shonna. And so if we implement that more going forward, to be able to keep that top of mind communication and just personal check-ins is, like I said, I've heard from our salespersons, but also just on a personal level with those that we work with directly, has been really valuable.
Yeah. Sheryl, what about you?
Similar to Kyla, we have weekly meetings that my whole team is involved in. So we are communicating, and to be honest, we communicate daily, whether it's a check-in in the morning, maybe before I'm, getting the kids, ready and off to school now. But whether it's, we kind of touch base, throughout the week, throughout the day. And, for me, produce, Ryan Sanchez took over my role, and it was a very easy transition, and not spending a lot of time having to learn that side of the business, but more trying to focus on, meat and seafood and service deli and the different departments that I'm now overseeing. It was, very uncomfortable in the beginning, but the team's been great as we, utilize teams to help, even if somebody's in a store walking and it's one person and we're walking the case and I'm on FaceTime with them, or we're getting ready for something else. So that, in terms of that, the communication's been fantastic and helping me learn the different departments throughout the store and my new role and how I could be supportive. But honestly, I think, in the beginning, everyone was, calling, texting, hey, I'm not going to be available for 2 hours because I have to take my mom to the doctor, or my kids have this. And I finally told everyone, do what you need to do. You don't feel like you have to tell me, like, I trust you, I know you're doing your job, get it done, do what you need to do, because I think we were all in that situation. And then knowing my situation, they would, text, hey, can you talk? Are you busy? Or they'd call, sorry, am I bugging you? Or are the kids okay? I mean, I think everyone just became very compassionate about each other's personal situations. And I think we've all learned through this, and it's been good. It's been good for myself and my team. So I think it actually helped us bond a little bit more than, maybe versus being in the office. So.
Yeah. Well, and I just realized the time. So Shonna and Amber, any thing you really want to get off your chest in terms of how you're working with your team before I get to my last question and we open it up for the audience?
No, I'm totally fine with what the other lady said. Like, I call myself like a coach because I played softball for years. So like for me, I look at everyone as my team player. What position are they going to play? What are they going to do their best at, and put it all together? So like, that's just how I build a team. And that's how you build the trust. You work together because every person has something to bring to that game. So
Totally agree.
Well, and so my last question before I let the audience weigh in, because in talking to each of the four of you, I found all of you to be really inspirational for me, and I kind of took something away from all of our conversations and have parsed that out to other people. I'm stealing from you essentially. But what advice would you give to other women in the industry? Whether they're kind of on top of the world right now and this has been the best year ever, or they're feeling kind of discouraged and kind of worn down. What parting thoughts do you have for them? And Amber, let's have you go first.
Sure, yeah. So I think my advice through all of this, first off, if you're feeling discouraged, you're not alone. We've all been through a lot this year. We're exhausted, overwhelmed on many levels. Emotionally, physically, mentally. So I think I would just encourage you, if you're feeling that way, just cut yourself some slack and just do the best you can. I mean, honestly, that's really all we can expect and ask of each other right now. And something that's kind of helped me personally, it's a little cheesy, but it's like this life motto that I've always kind of found helpful for me. And it's a produce analogy, so super applicable in more ways than one. But the quote is to bloom where you are planted. And sort of the way I see that is just that we all go through seasons of life, good or bad. And in either situation you find yourself in, I've at least learned to just be intentional about making the most of it, right? Just be the optimist, find ways to learn and grow and thrive and bloom, in whatever situation you're in. And I think one of the worst things that we can do to ourselves is just get discouraged and stuck and complacent. So I would encourage you to just keep that open mindset, find your passion, be resilient, and just go for it, literally bloom where you are planted. And it's a little bit twofold too, or I like to think it is, because this mentality, it can be pretty contagious, right? And as more people see you step up and own your truth, and you'll just inspire others to sort of do the same, and that to me is totally worth it. So that's kind of my little 2 cents, my words of wisdom. I've got that quote on my signature as my email. I've got a magnet of it. I've got a little mug. So those are my little ways to remind myself, just to have that mentality and give yourself some grace. Just bloom where you are planted.
Well, I love the visual
Silly but
reminders.
catchy.
Yeah, I think we need that sometimes, like the visual reminder where you can just look and be like, oh yeah, that's important. I need to remember that and take a step back. Shonna, what about you? Advice for women in the industry?
So my advice, this is a quote I always tell myself, and what I even do, like even negotiating my prices, my biggest thing, and I tell my kids this, it kind of applies everywhere. My thing is, you start with a no, you end with a no. So why not go out there and try, right? So like my biggest thing is always apply yourself. And that's what I tell my kids. Just keep pushing yourself, apply yourself. If you don't try it, you're always going to end with a no. So you start with a no, you end with a no, you gain nothing. Apply yourself.
I love that. I'm going to start telling my kids that. Sheryl, what about you?
Okay, so my thing is that, you know, if you got through this last year, you can get through anything, right? And, you know, similar to Amber and similar to Shonna, one thing I always, you know, kind of tell other women, and we just did this in our women's group, is that I have kind of a little quote that I live by too, that if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. That challenges are what spark and help us grow and improve, right? And we're also our strongest when we cheer each other on and we provide each other with great support. So my thing is, don't be afraid to take on new opportunities, and don't be intimidated by what you don't know. So that can be a great strength to ensure that you're always doing things differently. So that's mine for you.
I love that one. We've certainly been challenged and changed over the last year.
I want to be on Cheryl's leadership group. Can I get in on that?
Shonna, I'm going to invite you.
Thank you.
All right, Kyla, wrap us up before we go to some audience questions.
Okay. Well, I agree with what everyone said, and my quote came to mind too. So that's our theme, our quotes, and but also the key word is grace. You know, that's my simple answer, is to give yourself grace. Whether you're a woman or a man, it's just to give yourself grace, especially given everything. But I agree. If it's not a challenge, you're not going to grow. And my husband rolls his eyes when he hears me say this, but it's why they call it work. And so that's my mentality, is if it's hard, it's work. That's why they call it work. And so your only opportunity is to press forward, pardon me. And I don't let that stop me. So that, if I am bullish about that and I know that it's work and that's why they call it work, just keep going and to plow forward. And so that's my advice, is to maintain that mindset. And then, like Sheryl said, and everyone has said, is try it. I feel that that's how I have gotten to where I am today, is to raise my hand and volunteer and say, can I go? Can I listen to the call? Can I try this? Can I do this for you? From an offering, if just I have availability, let me take something off of your plate. And it might not be something that I know how to do, but gosh darn it, I'm going to figure it out. And in the end, you've learned it, and now you're a supposed expert at it, and you can only continue to grow and grow your plate, to bloom your flower, all of that. I agree with all of that, but don't let anything stop you. And I think our biggest roadblock is ourselves and that mindset. And so one of my biggest growth opportunities and barriers that I feel that I've somewhat conquered is to be able to just knock that wall down. And sometimes I'll find myself in meetings where it's an out-of-body experience, because here I am chatting away at a big panel of amazing women, and I'm included too, but you can't let that stop yourself, and just keep going and be confident in yourself, and those opportunities will continue to grow and come your way.
Well, and we all have a voice. It doesn't matter if you're 6 months in this industry or 40 years in industry, you've got a perspective that's important. Mm-hmm. Well, and Natalie Machado with Fresh Source and Rochelle Shulkin with Renaissance Food Group have joined us. They co-chair the luncheon committee at the FPFC, so this was their brainchild, and they have been moderating the questions. So what have we got for our panelists? And any of the panelists, kind of raise your hand if you want to be the first to take on this question.
Perfect. Hi, everyone. So the first question I have is actually from Maria Bourbano of Best Produce. And what can we do together in order to help one another and make it known that there are thriving women that run the businesses in this field?
Oh, how do we support each other? I love that question. Who's going to take it?
Well, I'll start. I've been told by a few of my vendors, and I'm sure one's listening right now, I'm harder on the women as my vendors. And it's because I feel like I just want to push them a little bit more and make them apply themselves. And so for me, I do communicate more. I try to say, hey, can you do this? Hey, what can we do together? So I do tend to push the ladies a little bit more, because I want them to excel, and I'm trying to drive them. I am a coach, so I'm trying to really push the ladies a little bit more. And sometimes I've been told I'm mean when I do that. Thank you, my friend. You know who you are. I know she's listening. But that's okay. I accept that, and I'm totally open to criticism. But for me, I do love the ladies in this industry. I don't think there's enough. And I also think that we tend to bring, she's texting me right now, tend to bring just different parts of organization, communication, and like I think it was Kyla said, grace, just grace. And that's one thing about the ladies. I just really like to really push them a little bit more, and just hoping to guide someone maybe that's especially brand new in the industry. So that's how I do it. But for me, I would love to get like a whole, I know they do things like through, it's for the ladies, for the PMA and stuff. And sometimes it's far, and it always seems to be on weekends that I can't get away to. So I'd love something more like if we can do like a SoCal lady event or something. And I know we'd have some great sponsors, especially Miss Natalie. Your boss said he would sponsor a weekend ladies events a few years ago. So you need to hit him up. Okay. Because I think we're all for it.
Take notes, Natalie and Rochelle. Does
Shonna,
anyone else? What, Sheryl?
I told Shonna that's where we'll have our margarita at that women's event that we're going to do, that Fresh Sorts is going to support.
Perfect. Does anyone else want to weigh in, or should we move on to the next question?
I was just going to add, it's equality, right? Whether it's whoever you are, what gender or identification, it's all about equality. And so I feel like as leaders, what we can do is ensure that, whether it's subliminal or not. But like Shonna said, it's, pushing a little bit harder towards the ladies, but I think we can all agree that we can find when we're in meetings, there's only one or two of us, and we might be outnumbered by the men. So it's to ensure equality by calling out the lady or that odd person out amongst the group to ensure that we're all a part of the team and we all are participating equally, whether it's through conversation. So I might single you out because you haven't said anything yet. But by giving everyone equal opportunity for a platform to participate in whatever means that is.
I love that. So much of the diversity and inclusion literature in the popular kind of sphere focuses on that diversity piece. But if you talk to D&I experts, that inclusion piece is actually really critical. So making sure every voice gets heard. I love that. All right, Rochelle, our last question, and only two of you will get to answer. So whoever gets there first.
Sure. So just first of all, we've got a lot of comments that this has been a great panel and everyone is very proud of all you. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom. We have a question. What do you think is the biggest challenge women face today in our industry? Who would like to take that?
I can take this one maybe.
Yeah, go for it, Amber.
I think for me, especially in just talking with, coworkers and other friends of mine in the industry, I think women are intimidated maybe by this industry, which I think, more so a few years ago that was the case, but I also think that it's come a long way. And, I think women have a tendency to be intimidated, right? So I think just encouraging other women to move into this industry, there's so much, it's so big, there's not just sales and buying and retail, there's logistics and marketing and food safety. I mean, there's so many outlets that we can, tap into while working in here. So I would just encourage people to have the confidence and don't let that deter you, and, just find a way to make the most of it, right? Try it. It's a no, right? So I think just encouraging other people to jump in and, learn about it and see what there is to do, because it's a great industry and, we're going places and it's a thriving industry. And I think, more people, women or otherwise, should just realize that and take advantage.
Yeah, I mean, it goes a little bit back to my quote, but I feel like women bring a different perspective, right? So we do need more women in our industry, and just don't be afraid to, voice your opinion and to be confident, and you can come in and learn the business. I've encouraged, quite a few friends that have gone down the produce route, and it's a fantastic industry, right? Amber, just what you were saying, there's so much on the backside from the vendor community and that, people don't realize, right? But truly, again, I'm being partial now that I look at all the other fresh side of the business, but produce specifically, you guys, is a fantastic industry. So we do need to encourage more women to join the produce industry.
I couldn't agree more. I cannot thank you all enough. Kyla, Amber, Shonna, and Sheryl, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. And with that, I will turn it over to the Executive Director at the FPFC, Don Gann, to wrap us up.
Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Natalie, Rochelle, for everything that you do for the FPFC, and thank you for filtering through those wonderful questions today. So before we wrap it up, FPFC style, we'd like to give away a raffle prize. We'll give away one prize. It's going to be $300 in gift cards, Amazon and Visa gift cards from our sponsors, California Avocado Commission, Veg Fresh Farms, and Wonderful Sales. So Emma, can you please spin the wheel for us?
All right, Crystal, we will contact you after the webinar is over to send you your raffle prize. Thank you so much for participating.
Yeah, congratulations, Crystal. That's awesome. $300 in gift cards. So wrapping it up today, hey, I'd like to thank Kristen Reid. Thank you for doing a wonderful job and being our moderator today. You did fantastic. I'd like to thank Kyla Oberman, Amber Rossi, Sheryl Salazar, and Shonna Williams. Thank you so much for being our panelists today. You guys were tremendous, outstanding, gave great feedback to everybody, and it was just a pleasure listening to you. I wish we had more time. I'd also like to thank everybody in attendance today. I think we're getting a little closer to seeing each other in person. So until then, thanks again. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see each other soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye, guys.